Hey folks, today I want to share some of the tips and tricks that have helped me climb the ladder in Marvel Rivals. For context, I've managed to reach Celestial this season with a 60% win rate while working a full-time job, which definitely hasn't left much time to go out and touch grass. Climbing in Marvel Rivals can be frustrating as hell, and honestly, I think a lot of the content creators out there are out of touch with the average player. A lot of their advice sounds great in theory, but it's coming from full-time streamers who play the game 12 hours a day, so it doesn't apply to everybody and it doesn't work for everybody. I am not a professional player, and I'm definitely not a professional streamer. I just absolutely love playing this game, and I've learned quite a bit through a ton of trial and error. This video is my way of sharing what's actually worked for me. So if you're trying to rank up before the season ends, this one's for you. Let's dive right in. Tip number 1, avoid 6 stacks unless you know what you're doing. Playing with 6 people sounds like a dream. You know exactly who's on your team, what they main, and how they fit into the comp. Everybody's roles are predetermined before the match begins. That way, your tank main doesn't have to go sub to healer because you have a 0 and 19 Wolverine that refuses to swap. But here's the thing. Everything that makes 6 stacking sound great also works against you. When you queue with 6, you're guaranteed to go up against another 6. They're just as likely to be in full comms, calling out dives and ults, managing their support cooldowns, and of course coordinating pushes way more effectively than a collective of duos or trios ever could. It becomes a real team versus team matchup, and if your team isn't on the same level, it gets rough fast, especially if you end up going against the same enemy team more than once. This has happened to me a few times. Here's an example where they absolutely steamrolled us the first 2 games. Fortunately, in Diamond and above, you're able to ban heroes, and so target banning their Strange and Loki ended up winning us the 3rd game. What I see a lot, and I'm definitely guilty of this, is people like to form 6 stacks with folks that they barely know. Maybe it's a friend of a friend, or somebody that you just met in the Rivals Discord. Everybody seems cool, so you jump into comp together right away, and there's no synergy, no coordination. And if you end up going against a sweaty 6 stack that's communicating and synced up, you're gonna get steamrolled. So unless you've actually played together as a group, built some team chemistry, you're probably better off queuing as a duo or a trio. That way you'll still have some control over your team comp, you'll have at least 1 or 2 dependable people that you can rely on, and you won't get matched against these ultra sweaty 6 stacks that like to run overpowered team comps. Of course, smurfs and boosters are also much more likely to be in 6 stacks than in duos or trios, and that is also something to take into consideration. And I'm not saying 6 stacking is always a bad idea, I've had some success with it, but from my experience, you're usually working way harder for the same amount of points you could earn if you queued up as a duo or a trio. Tip number 2, stop playing after 2 losses in a row. If you lose 2 games in a row, take a break from comp. Go play something else. Literally anything else. You can switch game modes or you can switch to an entirely different game. And if you do switch games, do not make comp the first thing you queue for when you get back to Rivals. You might think you're ready to jump back in and recover after 2 losses in a row, but mentally, most people aren't playing at 100%. There's also this common belief that after a few losses, you get thrown into loser's queue. I don't know if that's real, but what I do know is that every time I've checked my teammates' match histories during a rough streak of my own, it's the same story. They've all been losing too. You end up with a team full of players who are tilted, burned out, and ready to surrender the moment things get tough. And when you're on a losing streak, you tend to play worse as well. Your aim won't be as precise, your decision-making suffers, maybe you just overextend out of position too frequently, and of course, you'll get even more tilted and frustrated with each loss. That doesn't apply to everybody, but it definitely applies to me and to a lot of the players that I've talked with and played with. So my rule is simple. After 2 losses in a row, I stop playing comp. I reset mentally, get my focus back, and then consider going back in. Because if you try to brute force your way through a bad session just because you don't want to end on a loss, you're going to risk going on a loss streak that could wipe out an entire week worth of progress. Climbing to the top isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. Don't let one bad night undo all of the work that you've put in over the past few weeks. Please do not rage queue your gains away. Tip number 3, be ready to sub for any role. This might sound like a no-brainer, but learn every role in the game and be ready to swap if your team needs it. If you queue into comp with the mindset that you're only going to play one role, you're setting yourself up for failure. Yeah, most of the time you'll probably get your preferred role, but sometimes you won't. And if you're not willing to flex, you're going to lose easily winnable games. There have been plenty of times where I've swapped to support just to make sure we had a balanced comp. For me, it's not about being right, it's about looking at the team comp, spotting an issue, and fixing it so that we can win. Sometimes you need to let go of your pride. If you see that your team doesn't have enough healing or a proper frontline tank and nobody's swapping, you should be the one to step up if you actually want to climb. This becomes even more important once you're past Diamond. If you're a one-trick, especially on a popular hero like Winter Soldier, Hulk, or Wolverine, your pick is very likely to get banned, and if you don't have a backup role or hero, you're going to have a tough time. You don't have to be Lord on every character in the game, like I want people to be able to go out and touch grass, but you should be comfortable enough to flex when nobody else will. Still, focus on mastering your main role and your main roster. But if your goal is to climb, realize that having a backup role or a hero when the time comes can be incredibly clutch. Tip number 4, get a warm-up game in before you queue for comp. This is a ritual of mine. I always play a quick match or a doom match before I jump into comp. I play my main and I try my hardest to win. I make sure I'm actually fired up and ready for comp. Warming up does more than just get your aim dialed in. It also gives you a chance to make sure everything is right. Your connection, your settings, even your seating position, or what temperature you have the room set to. If anything feels off, fix it and run another warm-up before jumping into comp. The main reason I do this is to dial in my aim, but I also do it to see if I need to tweak anything like my sensitivity or my input settings, make sure my headset's charged, and it also helps me figure out whether I'm actually in the mood to play comp at all. Sometimes you won't feel like playing comp, and when you get into the game, it just hits you. It's way better to figure that out before your rank is on the line. Tip number 5, learn the basics of the entire roster so you can counter them easier. You should take the time to learn the basics of every hero in the game, even if you only play 1 or 2 characters seriously. Knowing what the rest of the roster does will make you way more effective when you're playing on your main. If you understand how support heroes operate, you'll be better at taking them out because you'll know what their cooldowns look like and when they're most vulnerable. If you see a certain ability go on cooldown, that's your window to push. Use your own cooldowns or pop your ultimate without fear of it getting countered. Knowing the enemy kit helps you time your plays, pick your targets, and avoid getting baited into bad fights. It's one of the easiest ways to start playing smarter without having to change the heroes that you play. Tip number 6, employ proper positioning. This is one of the most important things in the game, and yet a lot of people seem to struggle with it. As a DPS or a tank player, if you want heals, you need to be positioned correctly. Sure, it might be fun to fly around as Iron Man, way up in the sky, and it might be great as a tank to push all the way up and dive deep, especially if you're a Venom or a Thor. But if you take it too far away from your supports, it's near impossible for them to keep you alive. I see poor positioning and lack of awareness all the time. People that walk outside of healing ults, and then they get absolutely shredded because they're the only ones that are vulnerable. And then they complain that they didn't get healed. You also have tanks that push way too far ahead and get cut off, or healers that sit too far back and get picked off by divers like Psylocke. And of course, DPS players who like to stick to weird off angles where their supports can't see them, let alone heal them. The way I look at it is simple. Ask yourself, am I too far away from my team for them to help me if I get into trouble? If the answer is yes, then you should consider repositioning. Now, of course, there are heroes that are supposed to play away from the team, like Spider-Man, Psylocke, Black Panther. They don't need to rely on healing, and they really do mostly rely on health packs. But good positioning gets you better healing, better team follow-up, and makes you much harder to pick off. Bad positioning can get you eliminated early in a fight, and can easily cost your team the entire fight if you die too early, or if somebody wastes an ult trying to save you. Tip number 7, use the in-game voice chat. This is a huge problem in comp, especially in higher ranks for some reason. Most people don't use voice chat unless it's to flame. The entire team could be getting flanked and it's just radio silence. But the second somebody dies, they're yapping about not getting healed. Do not be that guy. Use your mic to call out when you're getting flanked or when you think an enemy is about to use their ultimate. If you see a Psylocke sneaking around and you know that she's been hitting people for a while, there's a really good chance that she's about to use her ult, so you can mention it to your team so that they can be on the lookout. You can also call out high priority targets. For example, when Hulk gets transformed into Banner, I always like to call it out so that my team knows to focus him down. Same thing with Jeff. If he's sneaking around and you know he's been healing for a while, he probably has an ult ready, and it's good for you to call out for the team to scatter if you see him approaching, so that way the entire team doesn't get eaten. It's also really important to let people know if you're about to use your healer ult, that way you don't have 2 healers use their ults at the same time. If you're about to dive the enemy backline as a diver, it's good to call that out so that your team can go in with you as a distraction, or the other diver on your team can go in tandem with you. And I might get some flack for this, but if somebody decides to be toxic in comms while you're just trying to be a good communicator, call them out and mute them and then report them. Because that toxicity is a big reason why people don't want to join voice chat. We as a community could do better to make people know that if they want to be toxic in voice chat when people are just trying to communicate, what they're doing is not okay and that they need to drop it. Communication in this game is honestly pretty bad, which again is why a lot of people feel that 6 stacking is the answer. But as I said earlier, 6 stacking comes with its own host of problems. Using voice chat in game, solo or duo, or even if you go in as a 4 stack, helps fill that gap and it can help you win more games. Tip number 8, avoid stacking with players who are much lower ranked than you. This might seem like a smart idea, but it usually works in their favor, not yours. Let's say that you're a gold player and you decide to queue with your friend who's in bronze. On paper, it sounds great. You'll go up against easier players and you won't have to work as hard to win. But that's not really how matchmaking works. There will still be gold players, but they're going to be on the enemy team, and they're going to be mixed in with silvers and bronzes. Most of them will be duos just like you, trying to take advantage of the same idea. And here's the kicker. If you win, you'll earn way fewer points than you would have if you had queued with somebody closer to your rank. Even worse, when you lose games, the game punishes you harder. You might lose up to 25 points a loss instead of the usual 18 to 20. So if you're running at a 50% win rate, you'll actually be going down in rank. You'll only be getting around 15 to 17 points per win, but losing 23 to 25 when things go wrong. Unless you're absolutely stomping and carrying every match, stacking with somebody way below your rank is going to hurt your climb. And as a side note, everybody from Gold 1 to Bronze 3 can group together. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. Once you get above Platinum, you'll no longer be able to queue with anybody that's below Gold 3. From then on up, your teammates will always have to be within 3 ranks of you. But the same tip still applies. If you queue with somebody that's 3 ranks below you, you'll be getting way fewer points per win and losing way more per loss. So I recommend stacking with players that are closer to your own rank, especially once you get above Gold, because it'll count even more then. These are the tips and tricks that have helped me climb to Celestial, and I really hope that they help you as well. With the season ending on April 11th, now is the time to lock in and make that final push. If you found this video interesting or helpful, feel free to comment below. Also, please hit those like and subscribe buttons, and thank you for watching. I'll see y'all next time.